Okay. Hi, everyone. We are going to start within like 5 minutes. Today we will talk about the start of spring in the Arab world on the MENA region. But still we know that the region has many challenges, but still we can see there are many opportunities also there. So today we will discuss these opportunities and see with Jonas Feller how the future will be for startups in the region. Jonas Feller is a research associate in WAMDA, and he has experience with different ecosystems in the region, and he studied these ecosystems. And let's see what his opinion about that. Recently, he published an article on WAMDA about this topic. I'm going to share that here on the chat, so everyone can see it here on the chat. By the way, you can send your questions here on the chat, so on YouTube. So he will be able to see your questions and answer it. Okay, another 4 minutes to start. Hi, Jonas, how are you?
Yeah, hi, nice to be with you. I'm fine. Thanks for your introduction. In fact, the article I published is a summary of some aspects of my master thesis on startups and their role in the Arab world. So I think it's a very interesting subject, because it does not only take into consideration new industries like e-commerce and technical aspects, but also the wider implications for society, for politics, for youth, for education. And I'm glad to be with you today.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and why you are interested in this topic?
Sure. So I'm originally from Germany. I studied Middle Eastern studies and international business in Vienna, in Austria. And I started getting interested in the region a long time ago, and started reading a lot about history, about politics, about literature. But while I studied, like after 2010, 2011, the one country after the other seemed to slide into chaos and into wars. They were spreading throughout the region. And I thought once I'm finished with my studies, initially the idea was to travel to many of those countries. So I wanted to understand what really caused this trouble that is not limited to one region or one problem or one government. So I wanted to have an overview of the different aspects of the current crisis. And at the same time, I started reading about the startups in the region. What really caused, and this has that is not limited to. This started to fascinate me because it gave a second narrative. At the same time, when these crises happen, there happened something very beautiful. And this is why I like the term of the startup spring, because it is a phenomenon that started at the same time that the official Arab Spring failed. And it is something that might be much deeper because it takes more time, but it is also more profound. I believe it tackled some of the root causes of both the reason why people were angry in the first place and then why it turned out so bad in many countries.
I see. I see. Yeah, mainly for me, I'm interested in this topic because, first of all, I'm from the region, and I already started working in the ecosystem in Dubai, and I had a startup before, and now as I'm working with in the crib, we meet startups every day, and we see there are many challenges that it's not easy for normal companies. So what about startups? It's not an easy region. First of all, it's the political situation that we have. Sometimes it's the social challenges that we have. For example, in many countries now, in Arab countries, that we don't have the the credit cards with everyone. uh, Still people like to pay in cash, so that's a big challenge for example, for e-commerce. So different, it's the different things that are there in the region that need to be studied, to see how a startup can survive there. And also in these Arab countries, still the economic system is not very stable. For example, what we can see now in Egypt. Um, so what do you think? What are the main challenges that we have in the Arab world, Jonas?
Yeah, thank you. I agree that there are many obstacles, and probably they are heavily interconnected because the economy affects politics and politics affects society. I will try to structure it along these three domains and give some examples to show how, even before startups started to spread around the region, um, there was a huge lack of opportunities for interregional and creativity by young people. So let's start with the economic challenges. The most famous one is probably youth unemployment, which is the highest in the world. It's almost 30% for people under 30 years. And
Mhm.
if you take into consideration that it's also one of the youngest regions in the world with a median age of 22 years, then it becomes very clear that there are many people. Among them is an ever rising share of well-educated people, but they lack perspective and opportunities to start working, having their own house, their own family, starting their own life, and achieving their full potential. So the combination of unemployment and poverty is a core challenge for the region. We see that over 50% of the people in the Middle East and North Africa live on less than $4 a day. So the official figures, they are usually on the world average, but this is because some countries are very rich and some countries are very poor. And the poor countries tend to have a larger population. So if you look at Egypt, at Libya, at Morocco, these are large markets where people cope with rising prices for food, for example. And this is an important reason why the demonstrations happened in late 2010 because the costs of living were rising year after year. At the same time, people felt there were less and less opportunities. Also, an important thing that is unique to the Arab world is the lack of inter-regional trade. So trade between single individual Arab countries and Southeast Asia or Turkey or the United States has been increasing over time. But trade between one Arab country and another Arab country in general has stagnated at 10% since the 70s. So many regions in the world, and the most famous example, of course, is the European Union. They feel that everybody benefits in the long run if they start to cooperate and to remove trade barriers between their close neighbors. Um, this hasn't happened in the region so far, and it can partially be explained by an economic pattern of unearned revenues. This means that many countries receive a big share of their GDP as remittances from abroad, or foreign aid, or oil and gas revenues. So all of these revenues are not created by the service sector or agriculture or the knowledge economy, but they come in from abroad and they don't express an industry that has been built in the country. So this does not incentivize um, huge programs to build technology products and to diversify the economy in the past. Um,
Yeah,
Instead, it makes the central government very strong, and this is like the political challenge, I think, because these governments don't, most of the governments don't offer too much representation to these young people. So you have a majority that is very young and that grew up with the internet, for example, and that has ideas, but there's very few representation or real dialogue to invite them to ask them how they want to contribute and to shape the society. So I think there is a legitimacy issue because many countries, when they received or achieved independence, they had legitimacy because either they had an ideology like the republics, or they had monarchy and they had like the vision to protect the old values and to industrialize or to modernize and to distribute these revenues I just mentioned. But now, with the rising population and the globalization, I think there needs to be a new vision and a new project, a new idea of how to build a social contract that engages everyone to renew this legitimacy and
yeah,
to build inclusive institutions.
yeah. I heard you before. You say some people blame Arabs and others blame the West. So, what do you think? What are the reasons for the current state that we have? Is it like is it the education? We need to focus more on the universities, schools. What do you think? What's let's say what is the main three reasons? Because I know there is no one reason behind anything. Just what are the main three reasons in your opinion?
Sure. Now, in one sentence, I think it's a mixture of internal and external characteristics of the current state, both institutional and political, that led to this crisis. There's a very popular narrative that says it's all the fault of the Arabs and their culture, or it's all the fault because of the West and its interference in the region. And you can find interesting arguments for both narratives. But I believe that institutions are incredibly powerful explanation because they are the rules of the game, if you want, in the society. And let's look at the rules of the game in the region. I mean, one thing that differentiates the history of the Arab world from some countries in Europe is the fact that central authority was never really challenged. And when the region became dominated, again, everybody tried to achieve the independence. So the middle class, for example, it was always allied with the central state. In Europe, it was vice versa. It was a competition between the monarchy and the aristocracy and the clergy, actually. So there were competing forces, and the tradesmen were building what they called civil society. So this early private sector formed a room for ordinary people and people that had education and businesses to defend their interests and negotiate something with different players. But this room for civil society to grow is historically not very much encouraged. And also, I think the laws that govern business transactions are very important. There's a very interesting book by Timur Kuran. He's a professor from Turkey, but he teaches at Duke University in the United States. And he looks into the traditional Islamic law applied in the Ottoman Empire. And he says that at a certain period of time in the 18th, 19th century, when the modern corporation was invented, if you want, so in Western Europe, those ideas remained banned to the vast population in the region. So innovative financial constructs where lots of people pool their money for an entity that is not a liable person. So they started to build long-term capital-intensive corporations that managed to create and dominate world trade. And in the region, businesses remained usually small, and they had partnerships for short periods of time, and then inheritance law split them up when a successful businessman passed away. So these two things, together with the fragmentation, which I mentioned earlier, are very important because they hold the economic potential back, and they make it very difficult to create jobs and to attract investments. Especially talking about fragmentation, because if I'm a company in Germany and I consider investing in the Arab world or India or China, in India and in China, I have 1 billion customers. Theoretically, in the Arab world, I have 400 million customers, and they have the same language and the same history, the same cultural heritage. But I have 22 countries, and the business language, for example, in some countries is English, in some countries is French. Taxation, the law system is very different, and it's very difficult to do cross-border trade. So this fragmentation on the one hand and centralization on the other hand, together with a lack of innovative financial products, plays a very important role in my opinion.
I see. Yeah, yeah. Then we have just a question, right? I can see a question from Twitter now. Can you see the question, Jonas? I put it here on chat.
Let me see.
How we can reduce the fragmentation that we have in the tech scene in the region?
Great question. Actually, I believe that the emergence of entrepreneurs, of technology, is a powerful force which in the midterm is going to overcome the current state of fragmentation. Actively as entrepreneurs and supporters of the ecosystem, I think we already started to overcome this by creating media platforms such as WAMDA, which takes a MENA focus. And in the UAE, you have many events, and now you have accelerators that target not only UAE nationals or UAE residents. I think this webinar, which is not limited to people that are living, for example, in Dubai, is also an example of this. We have more dialogue. We have a sense in almost every startup that wants to scale that the only way to grow is to go to other markets. And there's a huge demand for projects that make it easier to travel, to do trade. One of the ideas that I think would be amazing is an entrepreneur visa for GCC countries, for example, in the beginning. So you have 6 countries that cooperate politically, economically, and that recently paid more and more attention towards technology, innovation, and startups. So these are 6 countries, but each country is very small. Together, they form a powerful market, a very attractive market. If they had a visa that you issue once for an entrepreneur, and he can go to all countries from Dubai to Kuwait to Qatar to Bahrain, this would be a huge boost and incentive also for entrepreneurs from outside of the region to consider this market. In the long run, I hope that countries will start to cooperate at least more in economic terms. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. So with all these challenges, how you are saying that we have a rise of the startups in the region? Where is the spring in this? So I don't know that it's not easy to start a startup in the region. Then, what do you think? So where is the spring now?
The spring is the simple fact that you have over 2,000, I think we have over 2,500 startups that are headquartered in the Arab world as of now. And this is huge. It didn't exist 5 years ago. And the very nature, the very idea of a startup is that it is not centralist, it is not top down, it is not dogmatic and inflexible and looking backward. And it is not interested in keeping up the current fragmentation and the brain drain. It is the whole opposite of all of this. So everyone who started a business, everyone inspired about the potential, about the opportunity that this region looks totally different because this change is starting with a mindset and with a habit and with vision and goals that spread among people. You cannot force people by having a slogan that everybody says at school or by having a policy that everybody reads about in the newspaper, but he doesn't believe it. You get this change by having people excited about something that they actually feel is working. Now, I think the last 10 years built this opportunity because in 2006, the richest person on the planet could not afford a smartphone because it did not exist. And now in the UAE, 80% have a smartphone. And very soon, the majority of humanity will be connected to the internet. And once you are on the internet, especially in English, but increasingly in Arabic, you find valuable, high quality content on whatever subject you want to learn about. So this is something that is similar to the importance of the invention of the book, printing books. It's something that brings us to a totally new level and creates a new reality for millions of people. And especially in the Arab world, whoever wanted to do change and to create something and to get ownership of a project, it became much more easy and achievable in a very short period of time. Because also then the internet allows everybody to connect with people that have same ideas, to not only learn from each other, but to meet and to contribute and to build partnerships. And this is exactly what we see now. I think it is very interesting to see that the time lag between a new innovation in the US and this innovation spreading around the world is becoming increasingly lower and shorter. And a while ago, everybody was associating startups with Facebook and Amazon and Silicon Valley. But now we have Souk, which is founded by a Syrian and headquartered in Dubai. And it's the first unicorn, like the first startup valued at more than 1 billion US dollars. And I believe this is only a sign of things to come, because this is really picking up in the recent years. More startups that are valued in the three-digit millions. And just to give you an example of numbers, back in 2006, there were around 60 to 70 entities, initiatives that supported startups. In 2016, we know of over 460. So from 60 to almost 500 events, institutions, initiatives that try to empower entrepreneurs and to support them. Some are launched by governments and some by corporations. Universities also start to take note of this and to contribute to this ecosystem. And this is very exciting. And this is
Okay.
something that many people, yeah.
Yeah, then okay, that's fine. But I think people want to hear some examples. Do you have any good example in the region that they build a good startup and they have a nice, I don't know, will we have another Facebook or something like Facebook, another Uber, something like that in the region here? Are we going to build another Google, something like that? I don't know. So examples, we need more examples.
Actually, yes, you have a regional Uber. It's called Karim. It was founded only 4 years ago, or 4 years ago, it was only an idea. And now in last year, 2015, they already raised their Series C with 60 million US dollars, which is a big amount for the region. And they are expanding and they with Uber. And in addition to this, they also acquired two smaller startups already. So I believe that the emergence of a regional it's not about copycats. It's not about taking an existing startup and building the same thing again. I think it's tailoring things to the region and building a competitor that has a differentiator. So Uber takes a different approach than Karim, for example, and the founding team has a different vision than Uber, and the same goes for Souk, because it is similar to Amazon in its business model, but it was started when Amazon did not even consider going to the region, and this gave it a huge advantage because it built its market knowledge, it built its presence, it partnered with regional companies. And I believe this is the aspect that will bring international attention to startups in MENA. For the people in the region, I think the aspect that is more important is that it would be nice to have a Google or a totally new invention. At one point, this is going to happen. But for the next 5 to 10 years, the single fact that so many talented people start building their own business is the startup spring is a huge step, even if those businesses are in the majority geared towards e-commerce, media, and customer services. With in the future, with time passing by, I believe that more and more becoming more sophisticated, and people that study science subjects will see opportunities in clean tech, in healthcare, in fintech. So mentioning the lack of Visa cards in Egypt, for example, there are startups in Africa actually that enabled people with old mobile phones to send an SMS and transfer money with system called ePisa. So even these
Yeah.
challenges can be turned into opportunities. And even if the technology is not too advanced, if it targets millions of people, it makes their life easier, safer, more convenient. And I think this is huge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We heard about this industry. The healthcare industry is a big opportunity for startups in the region, and we can see the numbers also. But still, I don't see that a lot of startups are there in that industry. We can see the opportunity. We are telling entrepreneurs that, yeah, you have a big opportunity there. Why don't go and build your startup with nice ideas to solve the problems that we have in the region. But how many startups we have in that industry?
Yes, I agree that the majority of startups went to e-commerce and to media. The reason is very simple because it is easier to set up and it is easier to adapt to customer preferences and to build something that is very agile. If you want to build something that needs a prototype and you need professional support to verify that, for example, um, your solar panels are really working, or that your garbage management system is actually not causing any danger to people that operate this machine, or if you have something that, especially in health, it's very critical because if your app is giving the wrong information to the patient, it might endanger his life. Um, and it's not only the danger for his life, it's also the danger for you as an entrepreneur that people don't trust you in the first place. So even if your product is valid, you will struggle in the beginning to get people to use this. And I think everybody where Facebook started to read online, but not everybody started to even think of um, asking a doctor online, for example, or using apps
Yeah,
to
yeah,
track his exercises.
yeah.
And even here, I see like when I'm going for a run with my friend, he always doubts how correct the data that he gets on his app actually is. So I believe that these things will increase and accelerate as soon as the technology is becoming cheaper and the quality is becoming higher. Um, we are just at the beginning of the smartphone revolution because very soon we see, first of all, the $100 smartphone reaching the market.
Right, right. In India, that one, right? It's an Android in India.
How and at the same time, I think the high-end niche is getting more and more sophisticated, and this is opening new opportunities for these industries for sure.
I see. Okay, so let's go to the future now. Where do you see the region or the startups in this region in the future? What are the promises that we will get from this ecosystem? Are we going to solve our, major problems, economic, the problems in the economic? What do you think? What startup ecosystem can do in the near future for us?
Yes, I think I mentioned economic, political, and societal issues in the beginning. Now, in terms of economy, I think this drives the transition. Entrepreneurship and technology drives a transition from resource-dependent economies towards knowledge economies, where everyone that got a degree, that has education beyond high school, maybe, sees value in staying in his country instead of migrating, in contributing to new industries and new companies. And these companies will press very hard to ease cross-border trade. And these companies will grow very fast, in which, like in this process, they will create jobs, and they will change the current mood. It's going to be very beautiful when this picks up. If this is enabled by the right policies, then it will incentivize a whole generation to think out of the box, to become more creative and take a proactive approach. Because in the end, it's about this mindset that everybody feels that he can change things, and that he can create something, and that he is going to own it, and that people on the bottom can solve problems upwards instead of waiting for a solution, or thinking that there will be no solution to many problems, from education to waste management in Lebanon to financial inclusion. This is a very long list: traffic jams, energy. So we will see this if the economic and political incentives are not hindering this process. Politically, I think also we witness something called a new power, which is the power of the crowd and of the masses, not only on social media, but also in crowdfunding, for example, which is a very interesting concept, because banks in the region, they are very hesitant to lend loans and money to SMEs. But if you put an idea out and the crowd is funding your project, suddenly, without bureaucracy, without the need to accept a very bad contract or to wait half a year until they reply to you, you can start interacting, also considering feedback by an audience that believes in your project. So this is also very beautiful example is Wikipedia, which is actually created by everyone who wants to take some time to share his knowledge online. And this is totally different from the old approach, where you have one teacher that has the knowledge and everybody else is supposed just to memorize and not to interact with this knowledge. And I think the UAE is taking the lead in this transition, because they are very explicit about their future vision about an innovative knowledge-driven economy. And the more countries understand that this is something serious and not a very, not just a PR move to brand the country as something, as soon as more countries take this serious, they will unleash huge potential for their population. And this is going to change society as well, because people will feel that they can actually be part of the modern, fast-changing world, and it is exciting, and they can share and also shape it according to a very, I think, very original
I see.
Arabic identity, not something that is trying
Yeah.
to conserve or preserve something, but something that is taking and giving, the way it used to be when the Arab world actually had its golden age, when they were taking knowledge and contributing. I think this is the midterm future, if these forces join together and nothing bad happens.
Yeah, okay. As you mentioned, the UAE, I have a question here from Facebook. How do you think the government agencies can play a role in the startup ecosystem, especially in the UAE? That's the question. So, what do you think? How
Yes,
the government can be involved in this?
I think the government took a first and very important step by explicitly mentioning entrepreneurship and startups as one of the main pillars of its knowledge economy. And they are hosting not only many events, but also supporting SMEs and giving grants to entrepreneurs. And they have universities that start to open facilities and entrepreneurship-focused departments. So this is a very important step. For the future, I believe two things could push the drive in the UAE even further. Um, One is public-private partnerships where they encourage other stakeholders, mainly corporations and universities, to partner with the existing entrepreneurship institutions. In this sense, both sides will bring their network and their resources and their knowledge together, and they will be able to offer much larger support to entrepreneurs. And the second thing considers probably the laws that can incentivize more people to incorporate their company in the UAE. I think in the long run, it's very interesting to look at Singapore's entrepreneurship visa, where they try to attract entrepreneurs from around the globe to come and set up their company online. Even they just register. It's a very smooth process that attracts talent, global talent. And that is very important to really push the ecosystem in a sustainable way among the best ecosystems of the world. And you can further this, for example, by considering ownership, like full ownership for non-members of the UAE. Could be a decision by Gulf countries together to make travels and visa restrictions easier for entrepreneurs. I also mentioned this. And I think it's very important to consider the SME policy, where the federal government currently sources 10% of all its procurement activities from an SME. So taking SMEs and startups serious and communicating this also, how they benefit from their services, is something that I think many people are not aware about currently. And this is going to enhance the visibility of this phenomenon also
Yeah,
to young people that are not into the startup world yet.
I see. As we are talking about the future, we have a question from Facebook here about the trends. What do you think? What are the trends for startups in 2016? The question is, what are the trends, things that would work as a startup? For example, like healthcare, IoT, so on, to look out for in 2016, especially for MENA region. Yeah, because I don't think IoT is something that would be a big trend in the region. I don't know. That's my opinion, because we still don't have the the resources, and the education and is not enough that we have here to have people who has experience in this sector. So what do you think? Hello, Jonas?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yeah, yes. So we are not ready for IoT because even the internet connection is lagging now. No, I think in the midterm, I
challenges,
think in
yeah,
the midterm,
in the region.
I think in the midterm, IoT is going to be a big thing for the countries in the Gulf, because there is a smart city project by Dubai, where they want to link the actual infrastructure to the internet. Smart city projects are going to be a big thing, but probably after 2020. I don't think this is something that will shape the next 3 or 4 years. And I think the countries outside of the Gulf, and especially if you look at the Levant and North Africa, this will take more time because it's not the top priority. I think that fintech is a huge opportunity because it's going to enable e-commerce even further, and it's going to offer people bank accounts and financial services. We have a huge demand for this, not only by unbanked people, but by remittances that are sent back. We have millions of people that send money back to their countries every year. And this is a huge opportunity for startups.
Yeah, we have many questions here on social media, so I'll start posting that here one by one. Can you see the question? The
Yes.
question is,
So,
yeah, do you think that there
do you
is a,
think that
yeah,
there is a fear? Yes, I think it depends on fear by whom. I think
yeah,
that,
but let me just read the question for people who are listening. Do you think
sure,
that there is a fear of investing in the small startup ecosystems in the MENA?
yes.
Yeah.
So I believe that we have the three largest venture capital funds in MENA in 2010 had a total amount of 21 million US dollars. 2015 255 million. So this went up tenfold in only 5 years. And this is only for the three largest funds. The funding landscape is improving very fast. And we have at the last Rise Up Summit in Egypt in December 2015, we had many international venture capitalists. People start taking notice of the potential outside of the region even. So if local investors are too hesitant and they prefer to invest in the traditional real estate and hospitality industry, they will miss out on a great opportunity. But I believe the mindset is changing, and this is reflected by many funds that have grown tremendously in the last years. Also, governments can play a role in incentivizing these investments. In Lebanon, the central bank is backing 75% of every investment made into a local startup. So, if in some countries capital culture is lagging behind, the government can even accelerate this, and it was a very good experience for Lebanon, in my opinion.
Yeah, more questions from social media. Is MENA ready for the digital lawyer?
So this was actually the name of an article that was published on WAMDA. I'm not sure if this is now referring to the article.
Yeah, from
um,
Saber, right? Yeah, I
so
didn't know.
the digital lawyer is a software that helps you with your applications and the legal work that was traditionally done by your lawyer. I think the answer of that article, because I'm not an expert in this field and I'm not gonna tell you yes or no on this question, but the article argued that it is still too early to have software instead of a lawyer, but there are certain processes that these programs might be able to solve for you.
I see. Yeah, and I think that's the same thing of the digital doctor, right? It's because we don't have the platform of laws that support this from the government, right? So you cannot just
Definitely.
trust anyone online on a chat and ask him, "See, I have a headache, so what should I do?" It doesn't work that way. You should have the trust that there is a doctor behind that computer there sitting on the other side. So and this part where government should be involved. Yeah,
Totally agree.
another long question from Adam. Yeah, in short, he want to ask, is Dubai the right place to start a startup? Because as a startup you want to go to the market and verify and validate the idea in the market. So how you can go to the market to validate an idea without a trade license? So the challenge of the visa thing that you already talked about before. Can you just 2 minutes answer to this?
Definitely. So the idea is that you need a license in order to test your product in Dubai, and this is why the author of this the question is suggesting that Dubai is not a good place to start a business, right?
Right. That's what he
Yes,
thinks.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I agree that there are many legislations that can be improved in Dubai. What I disagree is the notion that it is a bad place to start a business for a very simple reason, because Dubai, compared to all other countries in the region, has the best ecosystem if you take the different dimensions: access of capital, human talent, the wealthy market and the stability. If you take this together, then you will not find another market that can easily compete. That is making it easier for you to start your project. But specific question with the license, I believe that every entrepreneur at one point needs to get creative. And one potential solution would be a joint go-to-market. So you have a partner. This might be another startup. This might be with the support of another model with company, and you bring your product to market. And because people know the large company that is backing your project, um, you would get more customer trust. You benefit from this strong brand, and at the same time, you can see who is buying your product and what is the feedback by its customers. So
Yeah.
I believe that entrepreneurs need to discuss the challenges, and they should be able to push for more reforms that make it easier. But because the entrepreneurship community in Dubai is so strong and so developed and diverse, actually, I think it's a good place to start a business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as we are going to the end of this webinar, you told me before that the only thing that makes you sad and sometimes angry are the people that endlessly complain about their countries and the problems. So can you just tell us about what makes you angry about the ecosystem?
Yes, I think there is widespread. This is a phenomenon that I noticed during the last year that I spent mainly in Jordan and Lebanon. And many people, once they know that you are from abroad, they start to complain about many things. And this is fine because everyone has something to complain about. But I noticed that this always comes with a sense of we can't change things, and things are out of our control, and this is very bad here, and everywhere else it's good, or at least significantly better. And I believe this is not true, because the very moment that many people believe that they can own projects and they can change things, they see this
Hello, Jonas.
a blockade, but as a challenge to climb over it. I think you perceive things in a very different way, and it's very important to listen to the narrative that is spread by everybody surrounding your teachers, your friends, your media. If they all tell you that the best thing is to look abroad and to leave, then you even unconsciously inhabit this mindset. There's a totally different narrative, which I tried to mention today, which is this huge growth in amazing and promising companies. And this reflects something very powerful, which is driven by technology and globalization. And everybody knows that the world is changing very fast now. And 5 years ago, few of us would have imagined that the world looks the way it looks now. So the same applies for the next 5 years ahead, and it might even accelerate. So people that have a vision and that embrace the many faceted opportunities to go out and change a problem and becoming responsible for your destiny is something that could even more accelerate the potential and the transition that the region is going through. And hopefully, like within this generation, I believe it's not going to take too long to see the results of this change, which starts as a mindset and translates into the way institutions are working and prosperity and wealth is created.
Right, right. Okay, thank you very much for your time, Jonas. We have many questions on Facebook and Twitter, and I don't know if you have the time to reply to these questions on social media after the webinar. Thank you very much, and maybe we'll see you in another webinar soon. Thank you very much. We will have another webinar every month, I think, on the CRIB channel. And thank you for everyone watching us today. And we are still receiving your questions on social media. We can keep discussing this. And yeah, and even if it's on Twitter, and I think Jonas is not active on Twitter, but I can pass that questions to him, so you can keep asking that on the CRIB account, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Please post your question there, and we will pass these questions to Jonas and see and get the answer from him. And thank you very much, Jonas, for joining us today. And have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.